Welcome to the Berks County Board of Commissioners meeting for June the 11th of 2020. As always, we will begin with a moment of silence, followed by a pledge. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to note that we did have 3 executive sessions since our last meeting. We had 2 on June the 4th dealing with personnel and 1 on June the 10th also dealing with personnel. I would also like to note at this time that our phase 3 meeting scheduled for this afternoon has been canceled. Are there any additions or corrections for the June 4th Commissioner meeting minutes and the June 4th Phase 3 and beyond meeting minutes and the June 9th operations meeting? Hearing none, the minutes will stand approved as presented. I do want to note if there's any public comment on specific agenda items, you need to ask that question now. And as always, I want to note that public comment is accepted through the Q&A function if you're on Microsoft Teams. It's accepted through the comment section of Facebook Live and also YouTube Live. Please include your first name, last name, and your municipality. Any comments without name and municipality will not be considered. Each citizen can submit 1 comment that is no more than 3 minutes per comment. The meeting comment period is limited to 30 minutes in total. Please be concise. Comments will be read during the meeting and should not be considered to be interactive dialogue with the commissioners. Any commissioner response to public comment will be done at the discretion of the commissioners and at the completion of comments. Is there any public comment on agenda items, Mary?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move to the agenda. Item 1, authorizing under that Budget Department, adopt a resolution authorizing 2020 budget transfers in the amount of $932,274 and 2020 appropriations in the amount of $1,408,202 per listing dated June the 8th of 2020. We have several items listed under Human Resources. Item 1, authorize the appointment of Stephanie Weaver to Public Relations Officer with the Commissioners. 2, authorize the appointment of Antonella Capice to Assistant Public Defender 1 in the Public Defender's Office. Item 3, authorize the utilization of a temp agency for 2 data entry clerk positions in the Treasurer's Office. There are several items listed under Commissioners. Item A, adopt a resolution of the Board of Commissioners approving and accepting the promissory note from the Redevelopment Authority of the County of Berks in the amount of $1,408,202 regarding the credit accommodation the County of Berks has extended to the RDA. The grant amount awarded to the RDA from the Community Development Block Grant Program through the Department of Housing and Urban Development to assist small businesses impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Item B, adopt a resolution authorizing execution of the Department of Agricultural State Food Purchase Program 5-year grant agreement for the use of state funds to purchase, transport, store, and distribute food to individuals who qualify as program participants. This is a pass-through grant to the Greater Berks Food Bank. Item C, adopt a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners authorizing the Berks County Solid Waste Authority on behalf of Berks County to apply for the Municipal Recycling Program Performance Grant to Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, Bureau of Waste Management for calendar year 2019. Item D, adopt a resolution authorizing Terrence Brennan, Administrator of the Berksheim Nursing and Rehabilitation, to execute the Memorandum of Agreement request to non-compliant providers with Levanta LLC for the review of appeals of Medicare determination requests from residents or other responsible parties at the Berksheim. Item E, adopt a resolution authorizing the chief clerk to advertise enactment of County Ordinance number 02-2020, amending the intergovernmental agreement authorized and made a part of County Ordinance 01-6 regarding the number of alternates on the Berks County Uniform Construction Code Board of Appeals from 3 to 5, and ratifying, approving all prior non-conforming agreements. Item 2, a motion authorizing execution of contract agreements and amendments as furnished by the contract coordinator as set forth on the attached listing dated June the 9th of 2020. There are a total of 9 contracts. There's one with Berks County Archives, one with Berks County Area Agency on Aging, one with Berks County Career Link, 3 with Berks County Children and Youth Services, 1 with the Commissioners, 1 with the Berks County Department of Emergency Services, and 1 with the Berks County Jail. And then item 3, a motion to ratify and confirm payments as set forth on the Controller's Office voucher listing for the week ending June the 10th of 2020, and the payment of electronic transfers and employee payroll.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. With that, we'll move to reports, and we'll go to our treasurer, Dennis Adams, for the treasurer's report.
Good morning. We have an opening value today of $225,963,393.65. A balance to clear of $5,156,203.40, leaving us with a balance today of $220,807,190.25.
Thank you very much, Dennis. And we'll go now to our county controller, Sandy Graffius, with the controller's report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Total accounts payable $6,644,281.64. We had a payroll this week. $4,166,402.93 for a grand total of $10,810,684.57.
Thank you very much, Sandy. We'll turn now to our Chief Administrative Officer, Ron Seaman, for comments.
Thank you. I have nothing to offer at this time.
Thank you. And that quickly, we are to commissioners' comments, and we'll begin with Commissioner Kevin Barnhart.
I want to say that this is not exactly a representation of Epler's one-room schoolhouse, but someday it will be. So I'm in class today. I want to publicly acknowledge and welcome Stephanie Weaver as our new Public Relations Officer. This is a newly created position for the county, and I think it's something that is really overdue with the amount and volume of interaction we have with the community, and recognizing that the media sources that we've had in the past are not as robust as they are today. we need to continue to do our best to communicate to the public about what is taking place in county government. So welcome aboard, Stephanie Weaver. I'm going to be asking my colleagues to consider an additional stipend to increase the money used for Census 2020. We have received an additional $20,000 through the CDBG money to continue to press away to count everyone in Berks County. I think Paul Jansen did send you the sheet that we are woefully behind in 33 census tracts in the city of Reading, actually down like 10% from where we should be. Now, overall, the county's in fairly decent shape. We would probably be one of the top counties in the Commonwealth, but for our lagging numbers in the city of Reading, we have plans for that. It does sound very likely that the Washington will extend the enumeration, the actual counting by census employees till October 31st. But we really need to continue to press the opportunity here in our community, because many of the funding streams coming to this community, even with COVID-19, a lot of it's based on population. We received, as well as the city, CDBG monies for what we're using for grants to small business owners that really is predicated on the number of people who live in Berks County. Again, we can also talk about the direct allocation of COVID-19 money to counties of 500,000 and above by Washington. We're at 420,000. So these numbers are really, really critical. And we've been pushing this for well over 2 years to tell people how critically important it is for us to get this money that should come back to Berks County from Washington, D.C., and almost all of it is based on your population numbers. Contact tracing is moving forward. Co-County Wellness is in the process of training. They have about a group of between 20 and 30 that will have been trained through the next week, and each of those people are ready to go. So as COVID positives are identified by the State Department of Health through the area nurses, they will start the contact tracing to help us to stop the flow of the virus. Last but not least, we're getting mixed messages and conflicts, as we always do, with the CARES Act funding. Now we find out that our allocation needs to be, we need to submit an application to DCED, to Community and Economic Development. We don't know exactly what that application looks like yet. Again, those direct allocation counties did not have to go through hoops, but apparently we have to justify what we're going to spend it on. So I'm imagining we have to have some estimated expenditures. And working through Witt O'Brien, our firm that's helping us with the emergency grantsmanship, we are working on a community needs assessment survey to send out at least a test module to ask those. We're going to start initially with not-for-profits, smaller governments, municipalities, and school districts for several purposes. One is to find out if, in fact, they have received any sort of CARES Act funding. Second would be to build this list, and if, for example, the school districts need to find out about other buckets of CARES Act money, we can, through the county and Witt O'Brien, lead them to those funding sources. And we also can build a case for why Berks County should not have just received $39 million. We think in our guts that there's a lot more of a need out in the community for funding. When our neighboring counties received, one in particular received more than double, if not triple, a direct allocation, and our allocation is anticipated to be $39 million. The needs here in the community are probably much stronger than that. We know that just the Helping Harvest allocation to get him through, to get Jay Worrell and his team through the year is $1.7 million. That's just in Helping Harvest and the food pantry. So we know there's critical needs out there, but we want to do this survey, want to make sure everyone gets included. We're going to be sending a sample survey out to about 24 different community groups just to get a sense of, is this easy to navigate? Is it easy to use? And basically list where you may have applied for funding and maybe have received it or did not receive it. So again, this is all pointing to the fact that we richly deserve that $39 million, and we hope to utilize that in the best way possible and also advocate for additional monies if that's needed. So I'll keep updating the board and the community on this as we move forward. I'll have more information at our Tuesday budget ops meeting as well as next Thursday. We don't want to roll this out in the wrong way. We want to roll this out correctly so that each and every group in the community has an opportunity, if they so choose, to fill out the survey and see if we can identify what their needs are for our community here in Berks County. That's what I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Barnhart, if you could stay on for a second. Are you prepared to make a motion on the $20,000 for the census?
Actually, it's $7,000.
It's $7,000?
Yes.
What was
yes.
the $20,000?
The $20,000 was already allocated through Ken Pick and the CDB.
Okay, I thought you were saying there was another 20.
Right. We really, we need to get, often used phrase, boots on the ground in Reading. Once we go green, we really have to get in there. This is going to take our marketing people knocking on doors. We're going to be doing robo-texting, robo-calls. This is really the man on the street knocking on the door and saying, hey, it makes sense for you to fill out your census form, either online or the physical piece. Now, we understand the physical document was sent out in April, and more than likely people have probably disposed of the actual census form, but the portal to apply online is still open until October 31st. So we just got to get out there and beat the bushes and get people to fill out the census form. And we understand that there's been a lot of things that have made people less likely to be interested in doing things for the government. But here's your opportunity going forward, that there's a lot of money on the table. We don't want to leave it down in Washington, D.C. So I'm more than happy to make the motion for $7,000 to augment the budget for Census 2020.
And I will second that motion.
The motion has been made and seconded to allocate an additional $7,000 to the Berks County 2020 census effort. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried.
Thank you, Commissioner Leinbach. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Commissioner Michael Rivera, your comments.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Leinbach. To start out, I would like to congratulate Reading Southern Middle School. Yesterday it was announced that they won second place in the statewide competition of What's So Cool About Manufacturing. Both last year and this year, they won the regional competition, which is Berks and Schuylkill County. And this year they were second place statewide. The company that they highlighted was Novapax LLC, which is located in Muhlenberg. And last year, if you saw their video, it was a sports-related video. This year, their video was a comic book theme in which they showed employees of Novapax as superheroes. So if you have a chance, you can Google that. It would be under What's So Cool About Manufacturing, and you can see the videos there. So congratulations to the teachers and the students at Reading Southern Middle School for doing so great in this competition in What's So Cool About Manufacturing. Something else I want to bring up is the City of Reading has their small business loan program. The deadline was yesterday, June the 10th. It has now been extended until June the 15th. So if you are a small business owner in the City of Reading, or if you know of a small business in the City of Reading, please have them fill out that application. If they have not, their loan amounts are anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000. It's a great opportunity. It's a forgiving loan if you meet all the criteria. So please get that done. As you know, many of the businesses are in need of that money. It's essential for them to be able to either reopen or to stay open now in this difficult time. So please reach out to the business owners in the City of Reading and ask them to go in and complete that application before June the 15th. The county will have their small business restart loan program, which is available for county businesses outside the City of Reading, because the City of Reading has their loan program. And again, just to clarify, this is based on where the money is coming from. That's why the city has to do theirs and the county we have to do ours, excluding the City of Reading, because it comes from the same pool of money. The county's loan program, the application will be open from June 15 through June 19th, which is Monday through Friday of next week. Loan amounts are between $2,500 and $10,000. Up to 50% of it can be forgiven if you use the money for the established criteria, 0% interest and no payments for 2 years. So please help us get this out to all small business owners within the county of Berks. You can get more information at doyourpartberks.com. Again, doyourpartberks.com, but the application will actually be on the Neighborhood Housing Services website. They are the third party that is responsible for taking the applications, reviewing the applications, determining who will be awarded the loan, and servicing the loan as well. And go into their website. Again, that's Neighborhood Housing Services of Greater Reading. You can go on there. There will be a link. You can go on now. There's a link there to the documents that you need to provide for the loan. You will not be able to access the application until Monday, but it is not a first come, first served loan. So you don't have to rush to be on early Monday morning. We're going to wait till the application process closes. At that point then is where Neighborhood Housing will review all the applications and based on the guidelines then make the decisions for this loan. So please help us get the word out so we have as many applicants as possible for this. We need our small businesses to be able to reopen and to thrive. Also with this loan, something that we're doing in coordination with the Greater Reading Chamber of Commerce and Industry is a Reopen Your Business Certificate. A Reopening Your Business Certificate, and it's 3 classes, 1.5 hours. It's online, virtually, like we're having this meeting here. And the next one will be June 15, 16, and 17. It's completely free, and you can get more information on the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance website. That's the GRCA website. One other thing, we are also working together with the Redevelopment Authority, the Coalition 10 Homelessness, and some other organizations on rental and housing assistance. As you know, evictions have been put on hold at least till July 11th. We don't know what will happen after that, but there is help out there. So if you're going through a difficult situation, you have not been able to get unemployment, you have not been able to restart your work again, and you may be getting evicted or need help with your rent, there will be help available. So please keep an eye out. We'll be sharing more information as that becomes available. That's all I have. Back to you, Commissioner Leinbach.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rivera. I want to once again note everyone that sees this program, you may think the commissioners are the ones making this happen, but I want to compliment our team from our IS department. They are actually managing the program, sending the feed from Microsoft Teams live event out to those that are watching on Microsoft Teams, sending a feed to BCTV so that they can run that live on their cable channel. It's also being run live on our county Facebook Live page and our county YouTube page. All of that courtesy of our amazing IS team. I also want to welcome Stephanie Weaver. She will be starting in the next week. She is a great addition to the team. She was one of 30 applicants for the position, and the decision to hire her was unanimous. Very excited. I'm especially excited because for the last whatever number of months, I've been doing all of the press releases and setting up interviews, and I'm glad to hand that over to someone else. It's much more work than even I imagined, and I come out of that background prior to becoming a commissioner. Commissioner Barnhart alluded to some of the continued frustrations in figuring out different aspects of the COVID-19 arena. He referenced some of the challenges with the CARES Act money from the federal government that for us, we have to go through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and they've not been real easy to deal with. Well, yesterday we got some additional confusing information. We shared a couple of weeks ago that we were given clear metrics from the Commonwealth on what they will be measuring to determine when a county goes from yellow to green. Well, those metrics have been placed online and are available for people to view. And I am going to try to bring up that chart. Actually, there it is. You should be able to see this. This is from the Department of Health. And what we were told in writing is that these four metrics have to be met consistently for 14 days in order for a county to go to green. Yesterday, as my role with the County Commissioners Association task force that is communicating directly with DOH and the governor's office, we asked about this, noting that Berks County currently is meeting 4 out of the 4 metrics. I will note not everyone is. Chester County is only meeting 2 of the 4. Lancaster's meeting 3 of the 4. Philadelphia 3 of the 4. And we asked for clarification. Do we go green in 14 days? And the answer is no. You go green in 21 days. At the end of 14 days, you're told that you'll be able to go green in 7 more days. Several of us on the call were very unhappy. I let Rob know from the governor's office that that is extremely disappointing. It's not consistent with what they've said publicly, what they've told counties. And so tomorrow I will be on a task force call with Governor Wolf. And I am going to press Governor Wolf on that issue. It just makes no sense that you set up these standards and you say to counties, here's what we need you to do. And when you can meet these for 14 days, and you'll notice they even highlight here, the 14 days is a big deal, you then go green. But not really, it's not 14 days, it's 21 days. Extremely frustrating. I'd like to make one more comment, maybe refer to it as a monologue. Sunday, June 14th is Flag Day. This is a special day that commemorates the adoption of the flag of the United States on June 14th, 1777 by resolution of the Second Continental Congress. Considering the tragic death of George Floyd, this day should take on special meaning. It should not be about desecrating the flag, but rather reestablishing its meaning. We began this meeting with the moment of silence and the pledge to the American flag. I know we all know what the pledge says, but do we really believe it, and do we practice it? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With liberty and justice for all? This concept of liberty is taken from the birth certificate of this nation, the Declaration of Independence, in which is declared, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. That was and is the promise of America. And it is our duty on Flag Day to remember this solemn promise from the birth certificate of these United States. It took the rise of Abraham Lincoln and a great civil war to reestablish the meaning of the Declaration, and it has taken every American since to continue to defend the fact that these God-given rights of liberty, life, and the pursuit of happiness are for all people. On August 17th, 1858, Abraham Lincoln spoke directly to this issue in a speech at Lewistown, Illinois. Now, my countrymen, if you have been taught doctrines conflicting with the great landmarks of the Declaration of Independence, if you have listened to suggestions which would take away from its grandeur and mutilate the fair symmetry of its proportions, if you have been inclined to believe that all men are not created equal in those inalienable rights enumerated by our Chart of Liberty, let me entreat you to come back. Return to the fountain whose waters spring close by the blood of the Revolution. Think nothing of me. Take no thought for the political fate of any man whomsoever, but come back to the truths that are in the Declaration of Independence. You may do anything with me you choose, if you will but heed these sacred principles. You may not only defeat me for the Senate, but you may take me and put me to death. While pretending no indifference to earthly honors, I do claim to be actuated in this contest by something higher than an anxiety for office. I charge you to drop every paltry and insignificant thought for any man's success. It is nothing. I am nothing. Judge Douglas is nothing. But do not destroy that immortal emblem of humanity, the Declaration of American Independence. Lincoln in 1861 said, "I have never had a feeling politically that did not spring from the sentiments embodied in the Declaration of Independence." In the end, Abraham Lincoln's words from 1858 came true. He indeed gave his life for the truths that are in the Declaration of Independence. And today we celebrate that when we recite the closing words of the pledge, liberty and justice for all. So who was George Floyd? I cannot really say because I did not know him. But there's one thing I do know about George Floyd. He was a man created in the image of God and endowed by his Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I'll open it up for comments from our row officers. Hearing no comments from our row officers, we will move to public comment. As I noted before, please list your name and your municipality, and we're limiting to one comment per individual. Mary, please read the public comments.
Liz Cates from Bern Township. How many people have been tested for COVID at the Berks Family Detention Center? Henry O'Leary from Cumru Township. Does the county have a no consent while in custody rule for all LEOs employed by the county? How does the Sheriff's Department plan to adjust policies concerning domestic abuse? Does the Sheriff's Department serve no-knock warrants for any reason, knowing the dangers to both residents and officers? Do they intend for this practice to continue? Joanne Koslowski, South Heidelberg Township. I understand from the organizer of the We Choose Love March to be held through Robezonia this Sunday that all of the county commissioners are in support and in fact may be marching with us. I want to personally thank you for your backing, as this echoes the march's efforts, and unification is vital at this time. Sincerely, Joanne Koslowski, South Heidelberg Township. Jane Palmer, why I'm missing. Commissioners, in response to nationwide social upheaval, including protests in every corner of the county, we choose to tackle the question of whether changes are needed and how we handle law enforcement by convening a panel of law enforcement officials and yourselves. This will not do. If you have learned one thing in the past 2 weeks, it should be that law enforcement cannot and must not police itself. When and how will you engage with the larger community on this vital issue, including listen to the people most impacted by policing, especially Black and Brown people? What else will you do to contribute to public conversations about the deep-seated racism in our midst? Beth Fisher, Kumru Township. Will you please make your weekly board meetings more accessible to your constituents by holding at least some of them in the evening? Retirees and pets are the only ones who can participate at 10 a.m. on a Thursday. The rest of us are too busy trying to pay our taxes. Tobias Spencer, Shillington. Yesterday, in answer to a question from Mark Detterline about how citizens can review and partake in police oversight, your response was as follows: just call the department and ask. If you're asking about an oversight board or something, I don't know about that. Do you understand that this is empty-handed, tone deaf, and not nearly enough? What more will you do to ensure that the people who are most impacted by policing have a role in oversight? Dr. Nancy Omaha Boy, Lower Alsich. Do you plan to outlaw chokeholds by police, stop, no-knock, and middle of the night barging into homes, targeting minorities, and keeping a public log of police misconduct that moves with them? A few years ago, a SWAT team murdered a young couple as they ran from their house in the middle of the night from a no-knock situation. We use trials to determine guilt, not SWAT events. Please return the rule of law. Thank you. Joe Beidler, Leesport. When you had a session to talk about reopening Berks, you had local business people, but labor and workers, the people who would be most threatened by reopening, were absent. Now you're holding a roundtable on brutality in law enforcement with only people from law enforcement. When are your roundtables going to start including as the full circle of Berks County instead of just one side? And if you're not going to do that, what legitimacy can you claim when you're not trying to represent all the people? Louise Grimm, why missing? Around the country, ICE has started offering voluntary COVID-19 testing to detainees. Regardless of commissioner's opinion that detainees are being very well cared for, it is essential that any contraction of this disease is caught as early as possible. Have any tests been done on detainees yet? And if so, how many have been positive? Lou Bellows, why I'm missing? So we hear that Stephanie Weaver has been hired to do PR for you, commissioners. With respect, sirs, you need more than public relations. You need to listen to your constituents, including people with health concerns forced to go back to work in unsafe conditions. Detainees in Leesport who, contrary to Commissioner Barnhart's statements, are indeed sick, unsafe, and frightened, and to the people directly impacted by police brutality. Can we hope that Ms. Weaver will facilitate a more open, accessible conversation between you and your constituents? Jess Royer, Spring Township. There were several questions asked yesterday, specifically two by Marie Sykes and Bri Taylor, both of Reading, about interactions between law enforcement and undocumented individuals and citizens seeking police records. The answers given did not seem to be official responses, but instead personal responses. As our county leaders, how can you ensure our law enforcement agencies are responsive to citizens? It could be helpful if you set that tone from your offices and show those agencies how that relationship can be fostered. Daniel Eguiza, apologize for the possibly mispronunciation. Reading, as county commissions, you often speak about the important role small businesses play in our community. What would you recommend small local businesses can do to show their support for the Black Lives Matter movement? Ginny Chudgar from Reading, because I check the registered cases of COVID and the registered deaths from COVID in Berks County every day, I know that both numbers have not reached the levels we'd like. Therefore, why is there less apparent official concern about this pandemic than there was earlier this year? The lifting of restrictions will increase already rising numbers. We know this from observing other states. Why then are Berks Countyans encouraged to be less health conscious and responsible? And that's the end.
Thank you very much, Mary. Would either of my colleagues like to make any comments?
I can cover generally three of the folks who emailed about the Berks County Residential Center. In April, we had tested 2 residents and 1 staff member. All 3 of those tests were negative for COVID-19. We are constantly monitoring temperatures and symptoms. And if there are new admissions, they will be tested and quarantined for 14 days. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rivera, any comments?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Leinbach. There was one question related to the march on Sunday. I cannot speak for my fellow commissioners, but I will be there on Sunday to support that march. There was another question around engaging the community. Just want to remind people that events like the Board of Commissioners, the weekly update that we had yesterday, they are open to the public. They are announced, they are put out there. They're broadcast through Facebook, through YouTube, through Teams. People are invited and encouraged to attend them, submit comments, submit questions as well, like we did yesterday. We did take the time to go through all of the questions that were submitted there. So we are asking for community engagement that is encouraged. So please, if you do know events that go on, invite people that you may know that are encouraged in a certain topic or certain information to please come in and participate. Again, you know, that's why we do it. We're doing it to get out there to as many people as possible, because we do want the community to get engaged. We do want to be transparent with what we do, and we want people to ask questions and to provide their comments as well. There was another question around logging of misconduct. Right now, as was mentioned in yesterday's update, the state is working on legislation that will do exactly this, that there will be some type of repository where there will be the misconduct of police officers logged in there. That way, if someone is being hired by another police department or law enforcement agency, they're able to go in there and check that out. So that's in the works right now. That's something that has to be done at the state level. That cannot be done at the county level. So please reach out to your state legislators and ask them to move forward with that. We did hear on the call yesterday that the police associations and many of the other law enforcement associations are behind this type of legislation because they understand the importance that law enforcement officers work do their job in a way that's efficient and that's protecting the people that they serve and trying to weed out the bad cops. There was one comment there also in reference to encouraging that there's less encouragement around being safe and health-wise, and I can guarantee you that we have never changed our stance on the amount of what you should do to remain safe, to keep people healthy, to look out for those who are the most vulnerable, to wear your mask, to encourage others to wear their masks, to do everything that we can. It is not something we have left drop. We understand that businesses that can open responsibly should open responsibly. And in the yellow phase that we moved into, some businesses have been able to do that. Others have to move into the green phase, but we have not at any point said that people should not be careful, that people now should just go out and do what they want. On the contrary, we encourage people to follow the health and safety guidelines. We encourage businesses to follow the health and safety guidelines as well, because we understand we're not through this yet. We need to make sure that we're continuing to do everything that we can to get to green and then to get out of green, and not just for colors, but to protect also the health and safety of our residents and especially of those who are the most vulnerable. So I wanted to touch on those. There was also a question around as to what small businesses can do to support the Black Lives Matter movement. That is a good question. I would welcome some input on that. I know the person who asked that, so if you want to, feel free to reach out to me, and I'd love to have some discussion in reference to what your ideas are on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rivera. I'll address several items. As far as making meetings more accessible, we continue to look for every way possible to make it more accessible. And one of the things I will highlight, the Facebook page was pretty much dormant. The YouTube page was dormant. And now we're not only broadcasting, but those programs, and the Wednesday program yesterday is there as a record. Anyone can go and watch the meeting. It's much more accessible today than it was before. You also don't have to come to downtown Reading to make public comment. And we've already made a commitment that at the point, and we don't know when that is yet, that we have in-person meetings, we will continue with Microsoft Teams Live, continue with Facebook Live, continue with YouTube Live. That's about making Berks County government more accessible to the people. And judging that, I think it's unfortunate that people assume that the only people we're talking to are police officers, because we had a program yesterday that revolved around law enforcement. I think you should rethink what took place yesterday. And I am speaking to people that may look at it and say, why law enforcement officers? Let me tell you, it wasn't easy for law enforcement officers put themselves in front of the public and accept questions that they didn't know what the questions were in advance. And we asked all the questions. Anyone that watched that knows that it was a very long program, but we wanted to make sure that people answered questions, and they did that. That also goes to the heart of bringing on Stephanie Weaver. Public relations officer is a broad term, and it is very much about being proactive as a county in making sure we're doing everything we can to let the public know what we're doing, what we're thinking, what we're talking about, getting them involved. Frankly, the role that I've played for the last several months has been about setting up these public forums. Obviously, we're forced to do it virtually because of the nature of COVID-19, which goes to the additional question. We are serious about the effects, or we wouldn't be having a virtual meeting right now. We wouldn't be spending money on the backs of BARTA buses right now. We just renewed a contract for the Do Your Part campaign. We also would not have spent the effort of promoting the doyourpartberks.com website. And that, I would encourage you to go to that site, look at the information that explains to people what they can do as a business, what you can do as an individual, that provides access to posters and materials, that provides an array of resources. Our small business restart loan program, our small business do your part guides, all types of resources are here because we believe it is important. I might also add that when you think about what the County of Berks is doing, that you consider this fact. We are in the midst of phase 3 planning for county government. Phase 3 has 3 distinct components. The first aspect or timeline is roughly June through the fall flu season. The second area is fall flu season through spring of 2021, and the final grouping is spring of 2021 forward. Why is that? It's because we recognize, based on the input from healthcare professionals, that there is it's very unlikely there'll be a vaccine before we reach the fall flu season. Number 2, the COVID-19 in Berks County didn't hit till well after the peak of the 2019-2020 flu season. That peak in Berks was January into February. The concern is that there may be some significant issues late this year into early next year because of having flu season overlap with COVID-19. So I disagree strongly with anybody that thinks the county is somehow taking their foot off the pedal, doesn't care about COVID-19. Even our message to businesses consistently has been, we believe any business should be able to open that implements effective health and safety protocols. And that continues to be the message. Finally, some points on the policing issue. Berks County has direct oversight of the Berks County Jail and corrections officers. That is a component of law enforcement. We have acknowledged that. We acknowledged that yesterday. That's why our Warden, Janine Quigley, was part of that program. The responsibility rests with us as county commissioners. We did not yesterday as commissioners suggest that if you have a problem, just go to the police. What was referenced in that question was a question that was answered by Chief Powell from West Reading. The commissioners are not the ones that said, call the police department. Secondly, let's understand something else. It is important for us as a county to understand our role, and I did highlight this yesterday, for municipalities to understand their role. There are 3 different areas that I believe, and I've shared with my colleagues, I have discussed already with our state association and with our national association, that we need to look at as elected officials. 1, enhanced HR policies, both on the front end before we hire someone, making sure that we are vetting. We do psychological testing in our DA's office, our sheriff's department, and in our corrections officers at the jail. But I also want to look at integrity testing, and I also want to look at enhanced background checks, and that can come into play with what District Attorney John Adams highlighted yesterday, and that is legislation that is designed to deal with a system that is often referred to as passing the trash. And that has to do with a minority of bad cops that are moved from police force to police force, and for some reason, people don't understand what their background is. But once a person's on board, I also want to see 360 reviews taking place relative to law enforcement so that we're getting feedback on what kind of job that they are doing. And I want to see some type of continued psych evaluation and integrity testing. All of the police departments that answered yesterday, including our county operations, all are heavily involved in cultural training and anti-racist and anti-prejudice training. The second area was alluded to a little bit, and that is looking at collective bargaining unit agreements with unions that represent any area of law enforcement. I'm not attacking the unions, but making sure that within that agreement, there is a joint responsibility between the union, and in this case, the county, could be a municipality, to make certain that bad cops are not protected, bad law enforcement officers. The third area, and a number of the officers yesterday, especially, I believe he's Detective Sergeant Caraballo from Muhlenberg, highlighted the serious issue in law enforcement culture, misplaced loyalty that causes one police officer not to, quote unquote, rat out another police officer. Several officers clearly stated it's the officer's duty and responsibility to protect and serve first and foremost. And that means when he sees or she sees inappropriate and dangerous behavior or potentially dangerous behavior or involvement with inappropriate hate groups, that information is shared with the appropriate authorities. This is not an end, this is a beginning. And I'll close with this. You asked the question, why are we only talking to law enforcement officers? Again, I would ask to please not be judged based on one, I think, great program that was presented yesterday. I will share with you that it was a phone call from a constituent in Reading on Monday, June the 1st, from an individual I don't even know. I've never met the person. They indicated to me they'd never met me. And that person just wanted to talk to me about the George Floyd tragedy. I listened to that individual. His first name was Carl. And after talking to him, I sat down and wrote the statement, actually the email that I sent later that afternoon, I believe around 5 o'clock, to the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania and to the National Association of Counties, and either later that evening or the next morning, sent a similar communication to my colleagues. That happened because I was listening and talking to a constituent. So I can tell you, I know my colleagues well. We are very much listening to everyone and what they have to say and their concerns on a variety of issues. We're listening to workers. We're hearing from employers. We're hearing from organizers. Michael, I don't know if I'm going to make it on Sunday, but I fully support any peaceful march that brings attention to the need, not for talk, the need for substantive change to ensure that we indeed are providing liberty and justice for all. Any other comments from my colleagues?
Motion to adjourn.
Commissioner
Yes.
Limbach, we do
Yes.
have one more Q&A question.
From?
It is from Chris Ellis in Reading. Yesterday, one of our law enforcement panelists said, "We have police in schools not because we're don't trying to militarize, we want to educate. These people have a responsibility to raise their children the right way. Do you think that police should be making determinations about whether some children need police in schools, but others don't?"
And you're going to have to ask the Reading School District, Chris. I think you know well enough that the county commissioners have no authority over the Reading School District. You heard from a Reading police officer yesterday. I think he gave a clear answer. I think he gave an honest answer. And you can continue to ask us, but I will continue to tell you, you need to talk to the Reading School Board. They're the ones that ultimately make that decision. The Reading police don't even make that decision. They don't arbitrarily decide where they're going to go. In fact, no police department operates in a vacuum. Every police department operates at the will of the people through the elected individuals in that governmental body. So in the case of Reading, the Reading School District, talk to them about bringing police in. If you have issues with the Reading Police Department, talk to City Council, talk to the mayor of Reading. But please keep in mind, those are the bodies that are responsible when it comes to policing, the local governmental body that oversees that group. I'll now accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned.